So today we're going to be talking about M1 Finance and how to rebalance your portfolio, as well as what rebalancing really does to your overall account. Now, in case you're new here, my name is Dennis, and I love talking about financial apps and services to help you build wealth. And I absolutely love M1 Finance, and I've been using it for well over a year. So let's go ahead and jump into my portfolio and not waste any time on this rebalancing question. So what we're going to do is first talk about why rebalancing is on there and what M1 Finance actually does overall as a platform and how it really benefits you as an investor. So for me personally, I love M1 Finance because I am a long-term dividend investor, and it really plays to the strengths that I have when it comes to knowing how to invest. Now, there's many different ways to invest inside the market, but the way I like to invest, M1 Finance really does help me out. So M1 Finance has this thing called dynamic rebalancing, and what that means is it really kind of caters to making sure that it has everything set in place based off of what you set in place prior for the money to be allocated to this portfolio. And I'll show you what I mean by this in case that sounds a little confusing. So when you look on M1 Finance, you're going to see an actual and a target. And what those are percentages of what you would like this personal pie or funds or stocks to actually be invested in. And now for me personally on M1 Finance, I've built what they call slices of pies so that way I can have all of my stocks grouped up together based how I would like them. So some people have all their stocks together, so it's not going to be as organized as this, and that's totally fine too if all your stocks are just all displayed at once. Just makes it a little bit more interesting when it comes to rebalancing. So what I'm going to show you guys here is my tech pie. So first and foremost, this is a pie and it has different stocks inside of it. Now for me, I have the actual percentage at 21.8%, and my goal that I would like M1 Finance to keep it at is 22%. So that means when I make deposits, every single time I make deposits, M1 Finance will look at the different pie sections that are under their target, and that's where a percentage of the money is going to go. So as a quick example, if we look down here in the health section over here, we're going to see that the actual percentage is 5.1%, and then the target is 5%. So this is essentially over its target. So this will get allocated almost nothing to very little amount of money in my next deposit. And then this goes one step deeper when we actually click into these pies. So I'm going to click into this tech pie right over here, and we're going to go ahead and see that this pie is made up of a couple of different stocks. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stocks, right? And so each one of these stocks actually has an actual and a target percentage as well. So we can see here AT&T has a 26% actual and a 24% target. So if you haven't guessed already, that means it is over its target. And M1 Finance will even tell you here in this little circle, you'll see here where it says overweight. So that way it can tell right away that this has more money than you originally allocated based off its percentage. So when that money comes into this pie right over here, my tech pie, the chances of it going into AT&T are going to be fairly low, but the more likelihood it's going to go into Microsoft. It looks like a little bit of Apple and some Verizon, as well as Texas Instrument and Cisco over here. So all of these stocks right over here are definitely undervalued, where AT&T is the only one overvalued. So what that is telling M1 Finance is, hey, when this money gets put into the tech pie based off of that percentage, the rest of that money is going to be split up into these different funds based off of what is over and under. Now, in case you're curious on how you can still invest into individual stocks because maybe you want to dollar cost average in there or whatever the case without having to always be switching out the percentages, I'm going to have a video in the show notes down below where you can learn how to buy into just individual stocks and pies as well. And I'll have it also here at the end too, so make sure you stick around for that. Now, what we're going to do is talk a little bit about this overall rebalancing button. So what happens is, because M1 Finance does dynamic rebalancing, which means that it is always trying to make sure that it is currently based off of your actual targets and where the actual percentages are, every deposit will flow in the way it's kind of set up for you. Now, what the rebalancing does, if you click on it, it's going to tell you right over here. It says during the next trade window, M1 will buy underweight slices and sell overweight slices to bring your pie back to its target. You can learn more if you wanted to, and then you can click on the confirm if you would like to do that. Now, one quick side note when it comes to rebalancing is that this can trigger taxable events. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that I am not a CPA as well as not your advisor, but when it comes to rebalancing, if you are selling off stocks, that can trigger some taxable events, whether you have gains or losses during that transaction. Now, what this means is when you click that rebalance, what it will do here is it's going to look for the different pies that are over their value and then sell some of those stocks in there, so that way it can bring this as close to 5 as an example for this one, and that way it can reallocate those funds into different sections that are under their target. So another example here for us as well too, if we look, our financial sector is well over its target at 14.2%. So when we click that rebalance button and confirm that next day, there's a really good chance that it's going to go ahead and cancel out some of these different funds in here, as far as selling off a little bit of the shares, not all of it, don't worry about that, it won't sell all of it, a little bit of these shares, and then that money will get reallocated into some of the tech pie, some of the VOO fund here, and then any other fund like this consumer products that is well under its target. Now, these funds are pretty close and accurate where they're not too far off from one another, so the chances of doing the rebalance and having it be effective is not going to be that great. You can see here that my actual pie is kind of in a nice organized order, where if you have something overvalued or undervalued, you're going to see a kind of different thing here. And I did one here for us just to give you an example. If I go into my retail pie, you're going to see this pie looks a little different. And you can see one sticking out here, Disney, and that's because I changed the percentage to be overvalued based off of the target that I would like it to have. So currently it is 21.4% of this current pie, but I would like it to be at 5%. So effectively, if I hit the rebalance button just in this pie, it's only gonna buy and sell in this section by itself, versus if I do the buy and sell on the overall portfolio. So there are differences in ways you can rebalance if you wanted to. But the other thing to consider too, if we go back into this retail pie, if I don't click the rebalance button, what this is going to have happen for this pie in particular is every time I'm depositing money into my overall M1 Finance account and money gets put into this retail pie, Disney is probably not going to get anything for a good while until this gets closer enough to the point where it is close to its actual target percentage. So you'll be able to see over time as you keep investing that less will go into Disney and more will go into everything else. So if you don't want that to happen, if you don't want to wait that long and you want that money to kind of be dispersed between everything, go ahead and click that rebalance button. But again, keep in mind about those taxable events that do occur by clicking that button and having everything go through. Now, there is no limit when it comes to actually clicking on this rebalance button on the portfolio. But again, because you are trying to set things up for kind of like a long-term investment, you don't really want to be clicking that button too often, because rebalancing your portfolio is going to be a little bit cumbersome if you constantly are doing it week in, week out, versus just kind of switching over your percentages and then letting your deposits go through and kind of get dispersed among your actual portfolio. I think long-term, and also the way M1 Finance kind of works out for you, it's actually going to be better for you to just kind of let M1 do its thing and do its dynamic rebalancing just on the back end of your deposits. Now, as I mentioned earlier, if you're curious on how to buy individual stocks or maybe different pies within your overall portfolio, I want you to check out my video right over here to learn how to go ahead and do that. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in that next video.